How's it going, everyone? And oh boy, did this take the gaming world, at least on my social media feed, by storm yesterday. And of course, we gotta talk about it, as now people are drawing to conclusions. Now people are they're making up fantasies of what's gonna happen. And if you're an Xbox guy, you're probably pretty excited about the fact of PlayStation games potentially coming to your platform. In fact, a PlayStation game is coming to your platform next month in Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is one of the very first PlayStation published games that is going to be coming to Xbox. Now, you do have the MLB game coming to Xbox every time out. However, that is an agreement with MLB to put those games on Xbox, so I don't really count that in the sense of Helldivers 2 is a major published game that's not a sports game done by PlayStation. However, you can still make the argument that Helldivers 2 isn't a first-party game. It isn't their traditional single-player experience in the sense that it's a live service game, and I've always talked about it. The biggest equity that a live service game can have is the amount of players that are invested into the experience. Live service games are not designed inherently to be system sellers for a console to bring you into a console ecosystem. Live service games like a Helldivers 2, like a Fortnite, like a Call of Duty now, they are designed to be their own ecosystem where they make money passively just by being that game and you spending money on that game and being invested into that game. It's a little bit different than a God of War that is designed to really bring people onto a platform and get people excited. That's why a God of War isn't a day one release on PC. You'll get it delayed a year and a half after, 2 years after, because it's designed to facilitate sales of a console, where Helldivers 2 isn't necessarily doing that as much, although that's shifting a little bit as well with a game like Lost Soul Aside coming out, and that's gonna be a day one on PC game. So things are certainly shifting to an extent, but I do think people are drawing to conclusions a little bit too far. However, now there is reason to draw a bit of a conclusion. A new PlayStation job listing states that they're looking for someone to assist in bringing PlayStation Studio software titles across all digital platforms beyond PlayStation hardware, including Steam, Epic Games Store, Xbox, Nintendo, and mobile. Now, again, as far as what PlayStation software is coming to other digital platforms, that remains to be seen, and I think people are jumping to conclusions. I saw people talking about Horizon coming, Spider-Man coming, God of War coming, and I really do think you're drawing to conclusions. And more than anything, my personal opinion about how Sony should tackle it is I think they should tackle it the same way they've been tackling it on PC. I think with your major first-party games, a God of War Ragnarok, a Horizon 3, whenever that comes out, Horizon Forbidden West, when that came out, Gran Turismo, whatever, Intergalactic, Wolverine, those games, I do believe they should, from their vantage point, in terms of what is in their best interest. If it was up to me, games would be available on all platforms, but I know this isn't up to me. I know they're going to do things in their best interest and how they can shift the market in their favor as best as possible and make the most amount of money, which is totally understandable. If I was in Sony's position, I'll release games on Xbox, but with a delayed release structure. I would release them 16 months, 24 months after, if anything at all. I think the argument can be made as well, and I'm willing to listen to that argument about not releasing your single-player games, a Horizon, a Spider-Man, a God of War on Xbox whatsoever. However, if a game is released and it's designed to be a system seller for the console, it is designed with the fact that this game is out, it is so big, you need to play it right now, you need to go buy a console for that game, then that really wanes 16 months, 24 months. Like, is God of War Ragnarok gonna come out and be like, oh, that's a system seller, but I'm not gonna buy a system right now? 24 months down the line, you just wake up one day, oh my god, God of War Ragnarok's on PlayStation. Now is the time to buy a PlayStation 5 so I can play God of War Ragnarok when it came out 24 months ago. I feel like that doesn't really happen. I think that value really does wane a lot about how big of a system seller a game acts as after that initial period of 6 weeks after a game has come out. At least the God of Wars, the Horizons, etc., etc. And whether or not these games really facilitate selling systems these days as much as they did back in the day, that's another conversation to be had, because there's just so much competition in the gaming world, in the sense of so many big games coming out, that you really have to be an absolute upper echelon game to be a truly system selling experience. And I think every generation, most people are gonna look at maybe 1 to 2 games a generation that are true system sellers. That's gonna vary person to person, but look at the PlayStation lineup this generation. What games to you were true system sellers? And for me, like, yeah, I like a lot of the PlayStation exclusives. I loved Horizon Forbidden West. What would it be, a system seller for me? Probably not. Was God of War Ragnarok a system seller for me? I'm not as big of a God of War guy as a lot of other people. Probably not. Like, there are games that I'm gonna really enjoy, but they're not system sellers. For me, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and having that as a timed exclusive, okay, you're cooking there. I'm a big Final Fantasy guy. That, to me personally, is a system seller. However, to other people, God of War will be that, Horizon will be that, and maybe it's one of those games being that, like a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's a huge game, and then Horizon Forbidden West and God of War also being on there pushes you over to getting a PlayStation 5. You know, it's how you define these things, but I don't think that's this big of a deal, and the fact that people are losing their minds over it, I really believe that if you think God of War, the next mainline God of War, the next mainline Horizon is gonna be a day one title on Xbox, think you're fooling yourself. And there are already rumblings about Xbox being a hybrid with a PC and having Steam on it, and if that's the case, I mean, PlayStation, I don't think they're gonna step out of releasing their games on PC, because there's a lot of money to be made, and I think PlayStation just views how they monetize their games a little bit differently than they did in the past. Obviously, yes, Concord was a big failure, but they're not gonna stop with the live service games, and as I mentioned before, the live service game's biggest equity is the number of invested players that you have, and if you have another platform or two to work on, whether it be Nintendo, Xbox, etc., Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox Series, etc., you're gonna do better on those live service games, even if those games don't sell as much as they do on PlayStation 5. Still, having more players is a huge deal, but I think people jumping to conclusions being like, oh, this means Intergalactic or Wolverine's gonna be day one on Xbox. You're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself at that point. At this point, we don't even know if Gears of War E-Day is gonna be day one on PlayStation, you guys, and now we're jumping to conclusions that Wolverine, Spider-Man 3, you know, the next Horizon, all of these games are gonna be day one on Xbox. Maybe they will be. I just think we're pushing the cart way before the horse right now as far as this job listing coming out. We already know that Helldivers 2 is coming to Xbox, and that took how long? 18 months for it to ultimately come out on Xbox? I think with live service games going forward, maybe it should be a day one thing. I look at a game like the Marvel Tokon Fighting title. That's a game that, okay, putting that on Xbox 6 months to a year after, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially that's the type of game that you're gonna release DLC. That's the type of game that's gonna get content updates that you're gonna sell. That makes a lot of sense. Fair game, I mean, that game's dead on arrival, but releasing that game on Xbox, that makes a lot of sense. Whatever Guerrilla does, if they do a multiplayer title, makes sense to put that on Xbox. Those are the types of games that I think make a lot of sense putting on Xbox day one right out the gate. And if hindsight was 2020, Helldivers 2 being on Xbox day one, you know, I don't think it would have been that big of a deal, although Helldivers 2 ended up being a really, really big game without it, but maybe it would have been even bigger. Who knows? The thing about releasing a God of War and a Horizon is, for Xbox, they're in a position where it makes a lot of sense for them to release Forza Horizon on PlayStation, because PlayStation's absolutely obliterating Xbox in the console space as far as how many users there are. PlayStation, the incentive, while there, isn't there as much to release a God of War, because you're foregoing that allure that you do have on PlayStation hardware as far as the console space goes, because you're already releasing the games on PC, to get some extra sales on Xbox. Whereas when Xbox releases a game on PlayStation, they're getting the potential for a lot of extra sales. You don't have the potential for a lot of extra sales, relatively speaking, just because there's more PlayStation owners out there. However, there's also the argument to be made that how big of a drawing card is exclusives these days, and that's a discussion worth having. I think for the one publisher that having exclusives is really important is Nintendo, because their games have a lot of cachet and you really need to win people over. Like, imagine if Nintendo games were day one available on all other platforms. I still think like the Switch 2 would do fine, but I think a big reason people gravitate towards Nintendo products is the games. They are the games, and I don't know if PlayStation and Xbox, it's their games anymore. With Nintendo, it is their games. With PlayStation and Xbox, I think people are buying a PlayStation and Xbox a lot of times for their NBA 2Ks, for their Call of Duties, for all of these third-party games coming out. I just have always wanted, you know, PlayStation, obviously, put out more quality first-party games. You have so many incredible first-party studios under your umbrella. Stop this live service nonsense. But again, that's my point of view. There's a lot of different angles that you can look at this from, and I think you could sit down and somebody that has the opposing view on every single one of my points about, you know, Xbox games day one as far as the Horizon and God of War goes, and if they want to make a counter argument, I would absolutely be open to hearing that argument, because I think you could be looking at it from so many different angles. My opinion, and this is coming from the vantage point of putting myself in PlayStation and Sony's position, what I would personally do is release the live service games day one. Again, with the live service game, the biggest equity is your player base. You're trying to monetize those players. You're trying to get as many invested people as possible in creating an ecosystem within that game, not necessarily using that game to facilitate hardware sales. That's not what a live service game is necessarily there to be. So release the fair games, release the whatever live service nonsense you're gonna do day one on all platforms. When it comes to the other games, and I'm honestly a little bit 50-50 on it, but if we want to talk about God of War, Horizon, and those games coming to Xbox, 18 to 24 months after the release, just like they've been doing on PC. However, there are some things that don't make the Xbox on PlayStation comparison the same with the PlayStation on Xbox comparison. PlayStation doesn't have that incentive like Xbox has that incentive, where there are so many PlayStation consoles out there. PlayStation releasing their games on Xbox, yeah, they'll make a little bit of money. Is that little bit of money worth foregoing that allure? And whether or not there is an allure, but I feel like there is an allure of having a PlayStation be the only console where God of War is available, Gran Turismo's available, Horizon's available, Spider-Man's available. Do you want to forego that for the sales you can get on Xbox? And also, Xbox does have one thing over PlayStation. Even if the long-term viability can be questioned, Game Pass is still an incredible value. And suddenly, if we're in a console market where Game Pass is available on Xbox, and on top of that, you have PlayStation games on Xbox as well, well, suddenly, Xbox looks like a pretty decent and viable option in the console space as well. Now, ultimately, if Xbox goes and does this whole hybrid Xbox and PC release for next generation, then we're opening up another can of worms, and I'll assess that once that actually gets revealed. But given the current landscape of the optics and the perception of each platform, I do think there are several discussion points worth having. But certainly, a lot of people in a tailspin. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. Honestly, I don't think at this point there's any reason to care on losing exclusives. A lot of this is me talking about it from the angle of PlayStation and what PlayStation should do in their best interest, at least how I perceive how PlayStation should operate with their best interest in mind. I do think, like, there's no world in the foreseeable future, and I might be wrong on this, that Xbox is getting the single-player PlayStation games day one, and I'm talking about Wolverine, Horizon, God of War, Intergalactic. I don't think that's gonna happen, let's say, within the next 5 to 7 years. I don't see that happening, and in 7 years, the gaming landscape can be totally different. A lot of things could happen. Y'all remember how quickly the PS3 versus Xbox 360 shifted into the PS4 versus Xbox One. That happened in the span of like 4 years, you guys, from the release of Kinect to the PS4 coming out. That was only like 3 years, and things change very, very quickly, so it's a lot to take in. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments section down below. Interested to hear what you guys think. Sound off down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.